core Roundtable Talks. My name is Linda. As always, I'm your host. I'm really excited about this edition. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to be talking about beyond the frame, owning our stories, telling our narratives, amplifying our creative voices. Basically, who holds the pen, who holds the space, and what are we doing about that? Before we get into it, I got to say thank you to our sponsors, and of course, we got to get paid. It's really beautiful to be here. I've got some guests right now. I want to say a huge welcome to Sophia, Carrel, and Sinitta Akello. I'm really excited to have you both here. I think that there's so many beautiful things that we're going to be talking about. Amplify before we get into the conversations, before we start having our chit chats. I think that right now is a good time for us to kind of actually, let me flip the script. Okay, maybe go through everybody introducing themselves before I actually play some clips. So Sinitta, would you like to tell us a little bit about your background? Welcome, Valeria. That's all right. That's all right. Go ahead, Sinitta. Can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Linda, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this roundtable talk. I'm really excited for today. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Give us a little bit of background about.
Good to
know. Okay, there's a delay. That's the strange reason. Okay, it's okay. So, Valeria, would you?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you, Linda, for reaching out and finding us, first of all. My name is Valeria Thorner. I'm the founder and the dreamer behind Luxury Life Kenya. It's the PR market, maybe even the first of all already. It's also the magazine that is about lifestyle, and it's one of it. It's very special for us all, for the whole team. It started. We just had the first issue in May, and working on.
Oh, you're welcome, Karibu. Sophie, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hi again. Thank you so much for having me on today. This is really exciting. My name is kind of come via the UK, Australia, and the last 11 years in New York. So my background is really focused on global communications, brand storytelling, mostly in the beauty and fashion industry, but really across the lifestyle space as well. Amplifying stories, finding creative ways to really drive brand awareness, brand loyalty, and to really, create the really beautiful storytelling behind a lot of these brands and talent that, especially here in Kenya, which is how I'm helping Valeria on the magazine, which is really exciting.
To introduce what you do, would you like to try? You want to go for that?
Yes, for sure. Can you hear me? Okay, I'll carry on. So I basically have been working in the fashion and beauty industries for about like 10 plus years as a beauty professional. I'm now working as a visual strategist, communications, and yeah, I'm just actually really excited to be here. I focus a lot on storytelling African heritage.
Oh, thank you so much, Sinitta. So, I figured I would play a little bit of a clip just to show people what the magazine kind of looks like. And then I will do a little bit of a visual also for what Sinitta wanted.
We don't follow trends.
Does. So here we go.
We make them. Typical lifestyle magazine. Storytellers, taste makers, and rule breakers. A love letter to life well lived.
I love that. It just, first of all, let's just say that I feel like we need to be by a pool of some sort with this menopausal weather in Nairobi. It is crazy. And so I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction also to what Sinitta does. And so I think this gives us a little bit of a guide into who everybody is and who the players are that are sitting here at this beautiful table. So once again, thank you. We're talking about beyond. If you don't mind, I want to start with, I'll start with Sinitta, and then we can get into the both Valeria and Sophie. But Sinitta, I wanted to find out, when you talk about owning your African narrative effects through makeup, how are you doing this? How are you making it possible?
I mean, okay, well, there's a broader sense in that. But it takes quite a bit of determination and imagination. For me, I think it's just, so I think you'll see in a lot of the images, there's a lot of inspiration from the continent. I'm obsessed with beads. I think beads are my medium. My medium is kind of like looking at what exists today and figuring out what traditions and cultures and what's in our heritage and our history that I can kind of plug into that to create something different.
Yeah, that's a really great aspect. So, one of the things that I was thinking about, and this is that's going to sit really right with the both of you ladies, is that just understanding like how we have so much content nowadays. There's a lot of LLK and how you guys came up with it. Have you seen that there's been a gap in the industry? And why did you start LLK? So Valeria, I'll start with you, and then Sophie will jump into you in a few if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, you can see there is some behind me, so I'm not in Nairobi, but I'll be traveling there this week. But nothing there on the market, nothing what I can really go to and buy. If you want, our magazine is not in a free copy, but I was lacking this quality editorial magazine that I can, as a young girl or as a woman, whoever it is, or as a man who is interested in the lifestyle, or even just good read. There is nothing like that. Everything just literally became digital. The idea behind the whole magazine was to create something beautiful. If you are a big reader, or if you're not really fond of reading, it was for everyone who likes the aesthetics and who likes to actually even get to know Kenya a little bit better.
That's interesting. So then, how did Sophie? How did you get involved with both of you?
Well, I actually got introduced to the magazine through the current cover girl, which is Patty Endo. She is a friend of mine here in Nairobi, and I just was so impressed with the magazine. A creative industry that really thrives here, and I think being able to tell those stories in a unique and emotional way is really important. It just really aligned with my background, what I've done in the state here in terms of like amplifying these stories and really giving them a platform, because to Valeria's point, there hasn't really been anything like this here. And I think while everything is digital, and that's, a quick and fast way of consuming information, the slowness of flipping through a magazine and having the tangible item and it being a piece that lives on and a longevity to it that I think is really emotional and really beautiful in the luxury space.
Okay. So, African narrative. So one thing that we're struggling with, and I just feel like because there is a lot of content happening everywhere, what we're trying to create is like so strategy with different brands and different players in the industry is telling the stories. How do we get to tell these stories? How do we hone in and actually, I don't know, it's like, but how do we get the right players? So how do we tell that narrative? Who gets to tell the narratives? Sinitta, you want to go?
Yes, so true on my side. But for me, I think, to be honest, feel anyone. We got to give a shout out to Zach because of platforms like Facebook, Instagram. At the moment, for me, it's about like authentic African stories. And for me, as an African, I think like when I came back from the UK, I started a blog called Cultured Ego. And it was basically because I was sick and tired of seeing this kind of narrative of like, corruption, poverty, safaris. And I wanted to offer a different perspective to like what it's in age with platforms like TikTok, like Instagram. And the fact that everybody has a smartphone in their pocket, I think like everybody does have the space to tell their stories. But I want to try and like understand your question a little bit more as well. Like in terms of like telling the stories, do you feel like honing in on particular stories or like creating a sort of narrative of Africa? I want to try and understand that.
So I feel like sometimes there's so many. Okay, so I'm just going to talk from brands and fashion events, right? So I'm just going to hone in on something small. So if we see something, gosh, this is going to sound. So you've got your Alexander McQueen. Alexander McQueen taking in one of the most beautiful jackets and everything, beautiful, but then has been borrowed from a narrative of Ethiopia, right? So the jacket and the blazer, the details in the weaving are all done because when they are getting married, that's what they wear. It's a, they become the kings and the princes for the legacy, right? And that's one of the things that they hold. So one of the items that I was saying is like, how do we tell our narrative so that even if there's collaboration, truthfully, that's what I would have hoped, is that there is some form of collaboration. And so it becomes one of those main items of, this is where you want people to tell the right story, so that there's no taking away from someone, there's no going on Twitter and going crazy about each other, but you're telling a narrative of something, like it's an ode to. That's why I was just asking. So how do we tell those stories? I think it's important to tell those stories so that nobody is taking away from, even if I go to Europe and I go to Sweden and I love something of their culture, I would love for that to be an inspiration, but to understand the narrative and to be able to translate it and say, this is what inspired me. I saw this and I really, but how do we tell those narratives? And that's what I'm just saying, who gets to tell these narratives? How do we get to tell the narratives? Welcome, Neha.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late, guys. Had a last minute technical hitch.
I am
obviously at home.
Go ahead.
No. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. I can hear you.
So I understand what you mean, actually, completely. To be honest, I feel like that's... Sorry. We're kind of walking this thin line between appropriation and appreciation, and I feel in those contexts, like, the thing about it is culture. It's culture, and understanding culture means you have to engage or be a part of that culture. So if you're gonna borrow or appreciate something from a different culture, it only makes sense for me to also involve like creatives that are also from that culture, because I don't know if you've seen there's a new Vaseline campaign that's just dropped like yesterday in South Africa, and like I think that's a perfect example of like just the culture, because there's a way that when you speak visually someone's language, that's about translating the culture into something in an image that's almost like an inside joke, something that will create such community around that, such a warm feeling of home around that. And to be honest, the only way that I feel like that is translated is if somebody that is from that culture contributes to that sort of visual conversation, if we put it that way.
Okay. Valeria, Sophie, who would like to take the floor? What do you guys think?
I can start, but I think for us, it's very technical, at this point. In terms of looking for the people who want to tell their story, I don't really see that struggle, because I think nowadays there is, obviously we have Instagram and we have all those platforms where you can, even your own website, where you can tell your story. But I do think it's not enough, because, Instagram is just short captions where you cannot really go deep and you cannot really say everything what you want. And in for instance, for us, if it's an artist or if it's a brand or the owner of the brand who started the brand, there is always this kind of a moment when you decide to found the brand and to have your own something, your own business. And I think it's always, for me at least, as a businesswoman, it's been always interesting to hear those stories. And what I've seen, at least for the second issue, when the people have seen already the first one, is that there is a real interest in Kenya to tell those stories. But obviously, there is, as I told you, there are technical issues such as the great photographers, the good writers that can actually write the stories. Obviously, it's not me who is writing the stories there. Sophia, actually, she's a writer as well, and she's been writing the stories as well. But obviously, there is the technical issue again, as I said, to capture it right, because one thing is what you want to tell, and another one is what what our magazine, in the end of the day, what we tell. So I think there is this, in Kenya at this moment, I feel like the market is so raw and so in the beginning that we kind of struggle with even this little small technical issues of who is telling the story and how we tell it.
Valerie, I mean, just to sorry, step in there. You have this perspective, not being here, and I'm sitting here, and I have the same sort of struggle, actually similar struggle of we have come across over 400 artisanal brands within our breadth, and how to translate each and every story into a narrative that we support actually not only requires a huge amount of investment and research and development into like how it is appropriately captured, because if you're going to go all that way, it's so it has to be sensitive, it has to be done the right way. No one's really done it before. People are trying to do it in different ways, right? But if you're going to take ownership of the brands and that you represent, and you're going to go all the way through to explore those cultural narratives, it does take a lot of time, and it's almost, I feel like right now for me as a brand, it's almost like an impossible feat, But what I have seen through this amalgamation of brands, and without having the capacity or financial capacity to reach out to each and every one of artisan and kind of bring their narrative forward, is the fact that we capture all of the common values that each narrative story has, actually, from an artisanal maker's point of view, based on where they're coming from and their roots. But also I've seen that narrative, because culture is always evolving, like it's really difficult to pinpoint a story to every single product for me, because of the natural evolution of culture that has so many different influences, right? And how that affects. So even to get down to the pinpoint of like the actual historic nature is, I mean, maybe like for us, maybe to like pinpoint down to the historic objectives of maybe the source of a lot of the inspiration. But it's difficult to capture the stories, because I think even by then there's so many different cultures that have already influenced that piece or that item, so it's always an evolving. So like I feel like it's easier just to collect the common values and the common sort of cultural identifications that drive different cultures to do what they do. And usually I think it comes down to environment.
Well, I mean, like, does it come with an influence of like how the media is telling our story? Has it got, like, if there's
of course
guys on the side, is it how the media tells the stories? Is it our
I mean,
funding, because oh my gosh,
even
it's
if
running a
we, yeah,
magazine.
even if we work so hard and on all that, I think research and development to find that authentic story, like with AI and everything that happens, you know that that's going to take it's going to be virtually taken apart and used in its own senses in any way, and create their own stories anyways. So then how much of it really is like worth the effort of like saying the truth to the from the beginning of the point, unless you're like, you know, it's a movie or it's a visual artistic like investment, right? But as a business and as a retail front for us, it's almost like an impossible thing for us to invest in ever right now. But we like, for me, we maintain very close relationships with all of our brands, and so the transparency for me is based on trust, and you know, like trusting where the funds are going to, trusting that this brand is supporting an X number of people in whatever it is that they're creating.
Sophie, what do you think?
Yeah, and in terms of then capturing that point, it's like Chinese whispers, right? Everything is always Chinese whispers. So,
Well, I feel like you have a valid point, but especially from the retail space. But you know, I'm trying to see, like, even with LLK coming into the game and Sophie being introduced, what do you think? I mean, like, you've been here for a couple of years. What do you think also of the landscape and in terms of telling the narratives and owning those stories?
Me?
Yes, Sophie, sorry.
Sorry, I missed that. So I think, yeah, these are all very valid points. I think in terms of like who gets to tell or who gets to define the creative story, I think there's an element of the people who are here on the ground and are living and breathing those experiences in this industry. I think whether it's a creator or a consumer, I think there's a symbiotic relationship that helps really to propel those stories and to shape a greater narrative that's happening here on the continent. So if it's a creative, it's those who are using a platform or their medium to tell the story, and kind of creating new spaces for those stories to be told. And then I think from the consumer side, it's really someone who is open and curious to really gain those emotional connections, who is then inspired to share those stories with others. So that's kind of how I view it, being, you know, obviously not from here and coming into Kenya and trying to immerse myself in the community and the culture and the experiences. So really just kind of providing ways to interact with those creatives who are telling those really beautiful and powerful and important stories, but then also being a vehicle to getting those stories out there and really, you know, reaching a greater audience and helping shape the wider narrative of what's happening here.
Okay.
I think
So
I think every narrative becomes an artistic expression, right, of whoever's expressing their narrative. It has to become that.
It has to be a good writer behind it, and that's what we are trying in the LLK, because obviously, you know, it's not just an advertorial, right? That you are telling the people, oh, this is an amazing brand, go and get this piece of whatever. But we are trying to tell the story there. So this is a storytelling without inventing really anything. Of course, you can put some artistic touches to it so that it does sound interesting to read, and you are kind of, you know, immersed in the story. There is a very, very beautiful long story that is coming up for the second issue of the brand that everybody knows. We are not going to disclose it, but it's very long. It's 3,000 words, and when I saw it from the writer, I was like, you're crazy, nobody's gonna read it. But then really, when you sit down and you and especially in Kenya, I think, because you don't have so many brands in the end of the day, and it's such a small community. We all know about them, and we're all curious about learning about them and how it all started. And obviously, we are telling people, in majority, we're telling people about the the legends almost, and the famous brands that we all know, and then maybe some other hidden gems that nobody knows, and but they are worth to be told about.
Yeah, Valerie, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think before you mentioned that we're so raw at the crux, I think capturing the narratives of everything that's happening at that point in time before this massive sort of period of growth that I like sense that's to come. Like, what is it that everybody's been experiencing? And like, I think Linda, from my personally as my friend, like the challenges that we've gone through personally for the last 5 years. So it'd just be interesting.
Sorry to interrupt if somebody's talking, but I don't believe I can hear Neha.
Oh,
we could, ladies, you can hear her? Yeah. I feel like there's a delay on your side. I'm not too sure why.
Sorry?
There's a delay on your side. I'm not too sure why, but you have a delay, but I can hear everyone.
I cannot hear Neha at all.
Oh, wow.
That's bizarre.
Ladies, can you hear her?
Yeah, I can't hear Neha and I can't see her at all. Yeah. But sorry,
It could be your screen, because you're on
a phone.
You're using the phone, so I think you're not seeing the broader screen. Yeah. Okay.
No, I see her screen, but it's blank. I see her screen, but it's blank.
Okay. I think I need to just take this in a different direction. Okay, so so here we are. We're trying to shift the powers, right? So I know that even as a content creator right now, me shifting into, doing a online virtual, edition is in terms of me trying to share a bigger storyline, right? But one of the things for me that I find that is like really limiting is a lot of the funding, especially in trying to tell the stories. I believe that it's also the reason why we have like new commissioners that have been brought in to try and take over our tourism stories here in Nairobi. So they've got this whole big committee of commissioners who've come in, because somehow it's just not being translated in the right direction. So I'm, we're in a space where I'm probably a big fan of what you've done with this beautiful magazine. And I'm like, I can't wait to actually see, like, in a year, what the content is gonna look like, because this is a space. This is such a huge space. And so, yeah, do you guys find that funding is one of the things that inhibit some of the storytelling lines? What do you guys think?
Yeah, thank you, Linda. It's first of all, we are PR and marketing companies, so in the end of the day, we tell the stories all every day. So that's how it all started, and that's there's always this marketing and money aspect behind it, right? Even though we are trying to, again, as I said, not to do the advertorials, but to tell the stories. So it's not about we don't want to go the direction of any other magazine that is now on the market. And unfortunately, we can see the tendency that it's not going the right direction. But the funding is a big aspect, and the reason why it doesn't go the right direction, and I think we all know the magazine that I mean, is because of the funding, unfortunately. And obviously we have to understand that the printing cost is very, very expensive in Kenya. Everything that has to do with the visuals is very expensive in Kenya. So if we're talking about the photographers, I've been very lucky with the crew that I have on the ground, and I moved out of Kenya in April. But before that, I was I was there also on the ground, and I could see with my own eyes how difficult it is. It came to the point when, you know, in my own PR company, I had to go and buy my own camera to actually be able to, you know, to afford, so that my clients can afford some good visuals. So it's a big issue that you know, and also this mentality of in Kenya that still, because there is nothing like that on the market, or there is like maybe one publication that was similar to it. The people are not really ready to pay for it. So they have this idea that everything has to be just digital, and it's fine. I don't exclude it. We are also digital. You know, we are in the 21st century. It's 2025. I am not saying that we have to go just, you know, print the magazine and that's going to be the only way to advertise. But it's yeah, we're basically changing mentality now, and trying slowly to change it, because at the moment the funding is a big issue. Yes, and obviously, like, if we had better support, we would be able to print more, we would be able to print better, we would be able to have you know, better photographers, international photographers coming into Kenya, taking, you know, and get it to completely another level. And it is possible, you know. They've been I myself, originally I'm from Russia, so I grew up in the 90s, where, you know, the country was in this very start, and everything was opening, and it was so interesting. There were all this magazine coming in, and all these glossy, you know, publications coming in, Vogue and all of them, and they did such a great job. And I think in Kenya, if we actually change this mentality of the, you know, of, as you say, tourism industry is a big one. You would laugh, but there is, like, we have this section about travel, and the same is happening with the second issue, and the same was happening with the first issue. We're struggling to get the advertising or even the articles for the travel section. It's insane. We have everything is full except that. How can you explain that? It's insane, and that's where the money is in Kenya, right? Like, it's all in tourism. Is people are spending lots of money just to go for 1 or 2 day safari. So yeah, here we are.
That's an interesting space that there's an issue with the travel, because there's so many travel writers that are here in Nairobi. So that is just wild. But anyway, I mean, like, I feel like this is an open right.
Exactly. This sounds like there's a problem between, like, you linking up with the right people.
I did want to also just add, if you don't mind, in terms of like the technical, this is, I think, like, I think it is where the importance of, like, having, like, somebody that understands the culture part of the team. I mean, like, for me, to be honest, I think technically, we've got so many amazing photographers in Kenya, and not just Kenyan, but, like, exported. We also have, like, photographers that started in Kenya that are also now shooting global campaigns for, like, Christian Dior, you know, Disney, Marvel, like, so, like, but then I think where the sort of disconnect comes in is because, like it's understanding and having somebody on the team that actually has the access and the knowledge, I feel, to those kinds of photographers. Because technically, I think, like, I think there was, like, 8 photographers on the list, and I think they're all brilliant. So I think it's like, research is one thing, but then when you have somebody that is, like, a part of, like, let's say, the creative culture from the country that you're in, I think, like, it helps a lot in terms of, like, just cutting that research down, because, like, they are aware of who's in this space that can actually help on that front. I don't know what your thoughts are, like, Valeria. What do you think?
I do agree and disagree with you on that. Like we are a bigger team than just me and Sophie, obviously. So it's not just us two. And I don't really, maybe I didn't explain myself well. It's not really about the storytellers. Obviously, like technical issues, as I said, to look for the right ones, because I guess I'm very selective and picky, and I really want it to be very high level. But at the end of the day, that is doable. We're working with the writers that have been writing for Vogue, for Rolling Stone, for Continent, and for the party. And we've been really lucky with the. I have to say, I've been really lucky with the people that I met so far, and they've been all wonderful, including Sophie. So it's more about the brands that want to invest and they want to pay for the advertisement or for the articles, because obviously we have to sustain ourselves. I can't just from my own pocket, right? So in the end of the day, feature stories, excluding some of the sections they are paid for, because we are, there's a lot of production involved. There is a design, there is like everything. Like I will not bore you with all of that, but there is a lot of cost inside, including the printing cost, because we have to understand that the standard is quite high that we are trying to achieve, and in Kenya it does. There is no magazine like that, even though we are using the best facility that is existing now and that has been used for all the magazines that have been on the market so far, but there is no publication like that. They have never done anything like that before. So that's my point. That there is really, in terms of the advertisement, there is a huge lack that we have to kind of change that mentality. And we're trying our best, but in the end of the day, maybe yes, maybe you're right. We have not spoken to the right people, but so far we've been. It's doing well, but I think it could be better, because I can see the publications anywhere else, even in South Africa, and they are so airlines. We can name it, cosmetic companies, all of these companies that are willing to advertise and willing to tell their stories and willing to be in a magazine like that. It's almost about the prestige than more than about the numbers. But for Kenya, we're trying our best to change it, but it's not there yet.
I'll just add.
I like the I like the fact that articles should be paid for. Articles, if you want an advertisement in the magazine, we need to get into the culture of everybody wants to be featured in Vogue, and I'm like, well, Chanel pays a heck of a lot of money to book the first page. It becomes like the hardest thing is like to get into the magazine and to make sure that you're featured. So even the small little blurbs are paid for. They're like $500 or $1,000. So we need to stop getting it in order to create it and make it bigger. So I'm just saying this now to any other fashion brands or any brands that are listening out there, is that you got to pay for space. You got to put money to make money. It doesn't just come for free. Not everything is just handed out. And, and I believe that. I believe that people have to invest in their own businesses in order for them to be seen.
Linda.
Okay, go ahead. So
I just wanted to add, I think, I think one of the goals for this magazine, and I think to Valeria's point, is really changing the mentality behind brand awareness. One of my whole career has really been about building brand awareness, building brand love, and I think from a comms PR perspective, it's often a hard sell to executives or brands to say you need to invest X amount of dollars in a campaign that's just going to drive eyeballs, because I think there's this mentality, especially here, where it's like everything is very much focused on ROI, and it's if I'm going to invest X amount of dollars, how much money is it going to make me? And I think one of the things I've learned the most in my career, and I always use this as an example, is in the beauty industry. You know, the market is so incredibly saturated. There's not actually a lot of product innovation happening. Make a splash in the space is by investing in their storytelling. And, you know, I always use the example of like a Rhode or a Fenty or Milk Makeup, where it's like their products are not super innovative, they're selling an experience, and they're selling the community that you basically become a part of when you use one of these products. And I think the value in that is that you're selling storytelling. And I think in Kenya, I think there's a lack in that importance around the storytelling, and knowing that not everything is going to drive sales initially, but if you invest properly and if you invest in strategic partnerships, it's going to be a slow business, much longer lasting and more consistently over time, because you are not just putting your product out there, seeing it sell and then moving away. You know, you go to the markets here, the big the Christmas markets and stuff product. So it's like, why would I pick this brand over this brand? And it really comes down to who the brand is, where they come from, what's their story, what's their background, where their products from. Like, it's all the behind the scenes stuff. And I think in a world where we are so bombarded with choices of designers and clothes and makeup and products, we as a consumer need to be able to make the decision as to why we want to purchase something, and why we want to kind of join really shows that by investing in the storytelling, using a platform that's maybe not going to drive automatic sales, but you're putting yourself out there. It's that prestige factor. It's the longevity of it living in a coffee table inspired book where people can come back, or a salesperson. But I think if a brand here can see the value in the brand awareness, the brand loyalty, it's going to automatically give your brand a massive lift over time.
Agree. Strategy. You know,
my background is very strategy. I'm coming at it through a
100%.
But Linda, also, like, the only other luxury magazine that I've come across.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you as well, especially in terms of like just, I feel like we've kind of come away from that very 90s feeling of like sales, ROI, you know, and it's like, especially now, because we have like broader channels. It's not just like a billboard or like a TV commercial or like something in a magazine, like how it used to be before. Now channels like Instagram are kind of correlation with your audience. So I completely 100% agree.
Neha, please go ahead.
Yeah. So no, I think I just wanted to say that, you know, in terms of like luxury magazine market, right? First of all, I think it's in general, it's a premium marketing way to sort of place yourself in a market that has that sort of abundance of commercial settings, common commercial settings, right? Because that's where the magazine really like actually gains value in sales and advertisements. Now the thing is, with something like Kenya, those luxury establishments are so dispersed between, you know, tourism, restaurants. Like, it's very difficult to sort of put it together in that sense. And also, you're right, like in terms of printing, quality and stuff, there are some challenges and complications, but I think essentially it's about understanding, is Kenya really does a luxury magazine product, does that really connect with the Kenyans? Because I've always wondered about this. Why hasn't a Vogue Kenya taken? Why hasn't any of these luxury magazines taken off? Right? Like, first of all, print, but also like, would we buy one, or how? I mean, does that really work for the culture? Because I feel like it's a really it is a premium product, but it's a premium product when you're so like, I don't know, Linda, help me. Do you see what I mean?
You know, actually, I understand where you're coming from, but I actually think that we are ready, because our retail space, our consuming habits are changing, which is why you have a lot of Kenyan brands that are building and growing.
Also, yeah.
If you look just like at the sustainable side of brands, there's that huge uptake onto sustainability and brand awareness. And I won't purchase something unless I know what the backstory is.
Right.
Like I will invest because I want, like I like to hear the stories. So the ability to actually tell those stories for people to actually understand these brands at the back end without them, I mean, no pun intended, to Twitter and all that great stuff, or Instagram, but there's a need. I mean, like, I want my story told. I mean, like, I tell my stories, so I bring people to the table to create the strategic partnerships and to get the collaborators and to, introduce, one person
Maybe
here, one person here, and one person here. But
that level of luxury may have to evolve to what we have access to right here. And
think about how many people went for, like yesterday, how much a concert ticket to Kenny was from 30,000 shillings and above for one concert ticket, right? So Kenyans are willing to spend the money. They want the luxury. They want to be seen in those spaces. They want to be part of that culture. So I feel like
but it's also like quite a
I feel like there's
responsibility.
the opportunity.
You're coming out as a first luxury fashion culture magazine outside of Nomad, which I think also tried to retail at first, but no, yeah.
I mean,
but then Nomad is I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say anything next to like luxury, but it's cultural right now.
to be honest, I'm so ready for this. I just want to see, like, I want to see a lot of brands in here. I want to see photographers contribute. I want to see, like, I'm so ready
I
for
don't
this.
think anyone
I'm
else
like,
has done
yes,
it.
let's go. And let's give Vogue a run for their money, because in my essence, I'm like, this is where we are. This is where we live. These are the stories that we own. These are the brands.
And
These
then
are
I
the
think
beauty
it's
products.
just about,
I want to see natural
it has
mom.
to be very, it just
I want
has
to see
be
natural mom
selective.
here.
Yeah, it's selective on the distribution channels, because then you align the magazine for where it needs to be seen, essentially.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's first of all, I would like to just to come back to this luxury thing. It's it has that word of luxury in the name, but it's one thing that we're doing, for instance, for the second issue, is that we are asking every single person that we're interviewing what is luxury for them. And I think it's so personal. It can be very simple, and we're trying to also tell Kenyans, or tell to people that we are our readers, that the luxury is not about the gold, not about the diamonds, not about the red chandeliers. It's not about the the infinity pool in your safari lodge. It's about actually that moment that you are enjoying, or it can be whatever else, something else for you. So that's why we are asking everyone, and the answers are interesting. And nobody so far has told me that it's a diamond ring for them or something like that. So some people say luxury is just time for them, because nowadays we're so busy, we're running everywhere, and to have your own 5 minutes for your own coffee and sit down and be quiet, that's already some luxury. So that's the idea. And when we're telling the stories in the magazine, it's not just about the high-end companies. It's also about artists. It's also about the brands that give back to the community, and they can be even the NGOs. They don't have to be brands. So it's it's really about the life. It's really about everything that has Kenya has to offer at the moment. I mean, obviously, maybe we are not talking about the, I don't know, a person who is selling bananas on the road, but maybe one day we will, because there's also Kenya, this is also story, and this is something that you, even, going in your maybe expensive car, you face every single day. So I think this is just a platform for us to tell the stories, and I think if the story is told in a proper, interesting way, there is always a reader for it, and I think there is always a person who likes to read, who likes to just flip and then have a look at the beautiful images. And as Sinitta correctly said, there are so many great photographers, including you, who are doing a great job. And I think this is also the platform for you guys that we're trying to provide, where you can, also show your work. You don't have to go there to Vogue and run around Kenya and say, I've been in the Vogue. I want you guys to be proud that you've been in Luxury Life Kenya. You've been featured in the Luxury Life Kenya, because I think what we're trying to also build in Kenya is that made in Kenya is really proudly made in Kenya. It's not just a wording, but it's something that you are really proud of. So I guess, it's obviously there is everything there is something for everyone, and there might be people that don't even want to look at it, but there are people that are really, I know there is a huge feedback from the audience that there is something that was lacking there for a long time, and everybody wanted to see for a long time.
Yeah.
Or at least now. The last year.
I think our market space has got a lot to offer. In terms of the content, in terms of, like you said, the storytellers and telling the right stories, and also equally for me, luxury is right here, is my hands, is people who use their hands, and it speaks so much for what people do. But I think, anyway, I think there's space, but I'm gonna throw this off to it was one of my latter questions. But what narratives do you guys want to see being told? What do you feel like is missing? What, I mean, and this is just based out of you personally. So it's come from the heart. I always go to you, Sinitta, because there's a little bit of a delay. So,
to be honest, I feel like I think I'm coming from a very different space where if I want to see something, I go out and create it. There's nothing I would say I want to see more. I really love what we're doing with the creative industry. I love what the younger generation are coming in and doing. I love the stories that we're telling. Maybe one thing I would want to see more of, actually, but this is something that I actually addressed while I was running Nebbia Artistry, which is basically Imagine Sephora but for African makeup brands. One of the strategies that we were using to well, not strategies, but it was something that I thought was really important, was showcasing and celebrating more African women, because we have done a lot. A lot of African women in history have done a lot, like Miriam Makeba, Winnie Mandela, so many. And I feel like a lot of the stories are almost centered around men. I think it would be nice to see more people telling stories about African women.
Okay, Neha.
I think for me, it's just about the creative process. And when you capture stories about that creative process, I think it's the most fascinating thing for me to read about, like what really inspires current creation, like what people are currently creating right now in terms of like what materials we're using, where I see a lot of the brands kind of gearing themselves towards in terms of resources, fibers. And I think hearing about what really like inspires these, the creators to like create the current selection of what they're making, for me is pretty inspiring to read. And that's really what, for me, it's all about. If I'm going to read.
I like that.
Yeah.
Sophie?
Well, Neha, I'm excited for you to read the next issue, because I feel like there's a lot of stories that are coming out that really do dive into the kind of soup to nuts process of how things are made and conceptualized and brought to life. So I'm very glad that we are on that part, the same path.
Yeah.
I think just like selfishly for me, coming from a beauty background, working closely with artists most of my career, I would love to see more artistry in the makeup space. So Sinitta, I think you're also trailblazing there. I think just allowing there to be a platform for the creative side of makeup, and not just being all about consumer and social media. I think the actual art of creating and using makeup as tools and paintbrushes and a form of expression, for me personally, is something that I'd love to see more of here. It was something I really wanted to dive right into as soon as I moved here, and quickly realized, oh my God, there aren't really any platforms for artists or networks or access to other artists. So yeah, I think that would be like a really cool spin. Maybe once LLK grows, we can have like a more editorial section on fashion or beauty, where it's just highlighting the work. But I think that would be really cool.
That is so interesting. And the fact that it's so weird. I remember telling Mac that we need to do a networking thing, called, anyway, seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway, because you said the networking, and especially for artists,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is, when we're doing the roundtable talks, I was like, come on, guys, you need to come on board. But anyway, this becomes a really great conversation for Sophie and Sinitta. I would love to pull you guys aside and try and do something different on that end, because I think it would be really beautiful. And of course, with the backing of Luxury LLK. But Sophie, what about you?
Oh, Valeria.
It's me, right?
Sorry, Valeria, sorry.
No, I'm just very curious in general. I love to tell all the stories. So I'm not really very, that's why we have, a broad selection of the sections in the magazine, all specters of life, whatever it is. I'm a mother myself as well of two little children. So everything that has to do with the life, I'm curious about everything. One thing that's been there, and unfortunately it's I don't think it's going to be in the second issue, but I'm hoping for the third one, is more the stories of the elderly Kenyans, something that has happened like maybe even 80 years ago, 90 years ago, and they still remember those stories, more like a kind of a novel type of storytelling. I think this is something that would be very interesting for me to dig in and to, because there are, it just sounds for me like so different universe, if it's when you start hearing all the stories that the people actually lived 90 years ago, that they still live, they are still alive, and I think we have this platform and legacy to actually tell those stories now. So yeah, so I guess that's the one that's been here in my head for a long time, but I hope we will do it on time. We will. We should not wait for too long.
We can't wait to see what the second and third edition looks like. I saw, yes, your feature with Muhammad Amin, I mean, like immediately I looked at the images. It was such nostalgia for, like storytelling of the Messiahs, but just seeing how the images look is like, yeah, definitely 80s and very, very vintage like. But okay, so here's my plan, and I hope you guys can jump into this. I feel like a physical roundtable is so necessary because I feel like the energy would have been, would be even more intricate, especially with an audience, for people to actually chime in. And I know my November edition is going to be about the visuals and the art and the artistry, because it has to be a continuation from this one. So I'm hoping, Sophie, if I could pull you into and Valeria, if you're going to be here, I could pull you back into the room, but because it's going to be physical, it will make it so much better because we'll be able to project and we'll be able to see the images and kind of engage with the audience. Sinitta is already part of that, and we're getting some photographers to jump in on board. So this becomes even a better, beautiful space to continue the conversation. What say you, ladies?
That'd be awesome. I'd love to be included. I think there's a lot to unpack, and a lot of really beautiful perspectives and backgrounds that can really, bring together some really dynamic conversations about the space, which I think it's needed. I think the passion behind creatives is so beautiful, and so to be able to bring that to life, I think would be great.
Yeah, because I was just, I was looking at the whole lineup and everything. I just said, oh my gosh, I really love this, but I want to continue the conversation, but I want to continue this conversation in November as a continuation of what we've been talking about. Because if I give another topic to unpack, it'll be large. And I just realized that, there's two people who have to leave right now, but yeah, I just first of all want to say thank you. I know we did not cover everything that I really intended to do, but I feel like it's the beginning of the conversation, because telling the stories, telling the narratives is a space that we really need to kind of hone in on and really pay attention to, especially for the business to really happen. And I talk about the business of fashion or business of the creatives. So I just, first of all, want to say thank you to everybody for being a part of this. This is, I'm very humbled. I feel very privileged to have had you guys here, even your time and just hearing your thoughts. And I hope that we could just, continue to build and grow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So November it is. To anybody who's actually listening online, we will have our physical. We will have our physical. I wanted, for those who are just catching the tail end, I'm just going to play 2 videos before I go, just so that you can understand everybody's backgrounds and for you to actually see how beautiful everybody's working. And it's a privilege.
We don't follow trends. We make
so
them.
Nice to meet you guys.
This is not your typical lifestyle magazine. Made by storytellers, tastemakers, and rule breakers. Introducing LLK Magazine. A love letter to life well lived.
So that was from LLK, Luxury Life Kenya. And here's a little bit of what Sinitta does. you, ladies. Oh my gosh, it has been a pleasure, and I really can't wait to see what you guys have got cooking. And Sinitta, we've got this bigger, broader project that we're going to be working on. So I can't wait for that to take off and to see how we can all collaborate. We have to make it a promise that we must try and figure out how we're all going to collaborate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, to everybody, thank you so much for being a part of the Core Roundtable Talks. We're going to continue this edition.
Valeria and Sophie, was so lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
Thank you. I would love to continue this conversation. So very nice to meet you, Sinitta. It's as I told you, it's I've been really lucky meeting people. So I feel like this is one of those moments.
Yes, it would. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. But it would be so lovely to have a sit down with you both, actually.
I'd love that.
Yay, business is happening. That's what we wanted to see. Anyway, thank you to everybody. Have a beautiful evening, and to be continues. Look out for the next edition. October, we're going with ASFW to Addis Ababa, and I'm really excited about that. We're going to be having some beautiful conversations in Ethiopia. And to everybody else, November it is, and we will see you and we will tell you our destination, which will be really cool for you guys to join. Come in, join, chime in. And remember, if you're just watching it later on, make sure you chime in. Let us know what kind of narratives you want to see being told, and where do you want to see the industry play out? But for now, thank you very much, and God bless. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for bringing us together. Bye.
You're most welcome. Thank you.